Hello and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy podcast channel. My name is Jed. How are you going? We are exploring the significance of dreams, the significance of dreams in our activity of, the human game. Becoming curious about, and to use the metaphor of philosophical midwifery, to being pregnant with, holding on to, nurturing questions about beliefs in general, and our specific false beliefs that are the root cause of our human problems. Lots of balloons. And the second class of curiosity, to become curious about understanding, and specifically the kind or the aspect of mind, intelligence, reality, self that we are most curious about, that can lead us to knowing, wisdom, and perfecting our skill of understanding in the meantime. So, a general and a specific. Beliefs themselves and our specific belief. Knowing and understanding itself and our specific idea we want to know and understand. We've been talking about the significance of dreams in doing that. And we've been using the key ideas of understanding to nail it down for ourselves. We want to make sure that when we are curious about what our purpose here is as human beings, and what is the cause of our problems, we want to make sure that we're understanding them properly and not just believing some opinion. So we have a new blackboard. We don't need the people talking in the background at the moment because we're not reading. So where do they live? There we go. They're muted. So, in order to play the game, there are certain axioms that we have to trust necessarily, and maybe we'll verify towards the end of our journey, but they have to be principles that we have to trust to play the game. Axioms. I'm using a new blackboard because the other one has so much content on it that it's stalling out. So I have to start a new board so I can write down all the things that we came to last time up here right now. So, axioms. We're also using the other aspects of understanding to nail this down. The selfers. How's my handwriting today? Selfers or self-logos terms. The aspects, the specifics within mind. Such as whole and part, same and different, etc. We are using the activities of understanding. Dialectic and analogy. These are the tools of understanding we've been using. And in doing so, we discovered that the axioms themselves fit within the analogy and the dialectic structure. So axiom 1, well, the definition, axiom 1, our excellence is reachable. Through its inherent intelligibility, by exploring the aspects, the understandable aspects within the model via the logos. Demonstration. The same color? Yeah. Our problems are solvable. Via understanding the pathologos, the inherent intelligibility within our fundamental beliefs. Pathologos is the name for that. You also have to accept or trust rationally division. So, why is this definition? Because this is the definition of the intelligibility of reality. Why is this the demonstration? Because the highest functioning and use of that is to specifically give birth to your specific false beliefs that block your development and reaching of your excellence. Now that, so as we've been seeing for that, we need to make use of sameness and difference, or analogy, the greater and the lesser. So using sameness, the greater, or the model, or the general, and difference, the specifics. Analogy, we would say that would be the greater and lesser of our it's the same color as that, isn't it? The greater and lesser, make it this color of well, actually it's the other way around, isn't it? The greater is to lesser, so the of understanding is to being or mind. That's the greater. Is to the logos. as this is one idea we have to become curious about. The greater is to the lesser. This is analogy. This is how analogy works. This you could say this is the primary analogy for human beings. As the other cognitive function we can function through beliefs. Oh, by the way, we might as well call it our excellence. Understanding. So as understanding is to being or mind, the realm that it perceives and has its existence from. The logos, its inherent intelligibility. Why do we care about it? It's our excellence or purpose. Just as the lesser beliefs, so those double dots mean is to, so we're in a different set. Beliefs are from the world of becoming, or the physical world appearances. Of appearances. Is to the pathologos, is to our problems. So we're bringing together all of our work in the last few eps. So notice, analogy can therefore allow you to have the terms, definitions, see the relationships between the terms. Understanding is related to being in that it's the cognitive function that allows us to perceive and use being. Being is to the logos in that the logos is its inherent understandability, aspects, structure, allowing us to use understanding to apprehend being and reach being. And after reaching being, reflect on being to understand it and assimilate it. So we could keep going, of course, because that's the book. We could take everything from the book about understanding and continue this analogy. Everything that Joseph has been demonstrating. For example, it would be transformation. And in beliefs, so if we teach this in school, this would be true education. It would be true education because it would be transformative. Whereas the bottom, it would be modern education, sick education. And instead of transformative, it would be informative. We could say the dialectic is the activity, whereas in belief, it's debate. So you can expand this out, and I encourage you to do that because that will, well, you'll be engaged in your higher excellence. But for right now, we're just looking at these four. So that's the greater and lesser, but also we want to find be curious about them generally, the sameness, and the specifics, the difference. In other words, understanding is the same for everyone. Beliefs is the same for everyone. When we say problems are caused by belief, we're not saying it's just because you have a belief I don't like or I wasn't raised in. It's belief itself. It's non-personal. But the specifics are your personal expressions of that. That's the difference within the sameness. And you could say, therefore, the logos is the specifics or the differences or the aspects within the model of being. So we have these two terms above being and logos, or the pathologos from the world of becoming. Actually, whoops. It's both. It's both belief and the physical world, understanding and the world of being. So you become curious about them. Why? Well, we have a sound
You're not
drop
going to
for that.
magically force someone to want to get better.
You have to come to that conclusion yourself. You have to want to get better.
You have to want to improve. You have to want to evolve. You have to want to solve your problems. You have to want to reach your excellence and fulfillment. That's why it's not just truth. It's truth and humanness. You need to become curious. So here we are using certain key Selfa terms same and different, general and specific, and the, well, lesser and greater are self-logos terms as well, but the structure of analogy. We have a whole big list of let's use it. It's worth nailing it down. Within the self-logos terms, sometimes called the selfers. Why? Because they're all described with the adjective self. We have the oneness, goodness, and truth, which corresponds to the aspects of our soul. Our head seeks or reasons to bring things into a oneness of understanding or knowing. Our heart propels us to seek the truth in whatever our activities are. And our belly desires for ourselves our goodness. Therefore, there's a little man here. That's what we call the soul. The unity of the psychic forces that propel us. Now, oneness, we've seen that that there are the terms like whole, is a different color, whole, and part. So these are things that are duad. You never see one without the other in the realm of experience, be it the physical world or the non-physical world of mind. Same, different. So these are called the selfers because it's whole itself. We're not talking about a whole picture or a whole puzzle or a whole painting, using that analogy twice. We're talking about the idea of whole itself. And when we say idea, we don't mean concept, because that sounds like an abstraction. These have an existence as aspects of pure being. Same and different. There are 12 of them. And we get these from Parmenides, as Parmenides gives us these terms and the dialectic structure in the book Parmenides as he teaches it to Socrates. Same and different, like, zoom in a bit here. Likeness and unlikeness. Unlimited and limited, limit, rest. So everything you've seen is either in rest or in motion, or some combination of the two. Everything in experience is either out of time, realm of being, or these ideas, which themselves are out of time, making them universal or in time. And last episode we said, oh, everything on these is kind of the greater. Whole is greater than the parts, greater and lesser. But also, these are all kinds of ones. Whole is a one, same as a one, and this is a kind of many. So you could even say each of these terms are various diminishments of one and many. So these are pearls on the string of the necklace. We have two necklaces, one and many. But we went one step further and said, hang on a second, for there to be a one into a many, there has to be something doing it, something causing it, a principle or an axiom. For there to be one and many in experience, there has to be something experiencing it. For us to use the word self to say, hey, whole itself, part itself, same itself, we are pulling from a higher principle. What's experiencing these things? What's the cause of these things? What's the primary principle beyond even one and many? Self. Self and other. So before you make any of these distinctions through understanding, the very first judgment you make is that me or is that not me? And of course, what's interesting is that's our goal. What's the self? So we're returning to the highest principle or axiom. Goodnesses, beauty, the things that we seek with our belly, we desire for ourselves, beauty. So as the oracle told us a moment ago about you needing to want to get better,
You actually have to address the systemic
I have known people who go to therapy, but they don't actually want to grow.
and improve and change as people. They just use all the therapy speak to help continue
Being
being
a shitty person.
right? We're not learning this to continue being a shitty person. We have to seek our growth and benefit. It's that these goodnesses that propel us. We desire goodnesses. We desire beauty. We desire justice. We desire our excellence. We want to know about the nature of excellence, reality, and so on. So, for there to be problems or beliefs distorting the truth of those goodnesses, the false belief about what's just, the false belief about reality, we can therefore recognize there is a lesser expression of these goodnesses, a greater in understanding and knowing what we are putting on the board, greater. And also we saw, hang on a second, there has to be an axiom or principle that allows the greater and a lesser reflection of something ultimate. So we see there are duads and oneness, monads, which means two, monads or single terms in goodness, and there's a triad in truth. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. That's a caveman from BBC. Ultimate. And so we say, hang on a second. If this is the experience of mind or being, so these are the selfers or the aspects or differences within the sameness or the model of being or mind or intelligence itself or reality. Them's the selfers. These are the building blocks that we make use of in understanding and thinking and perception and creation. Anything is a whole of parts, is the same as something, but different than it, and that's a different thing. Is either a lesser or greater expression of beauty, justice, fairness, harmony. But for there to be oneness as a quality of mind, there has to be, prior to that, the principle of one. So if these words, oneness, goodness, and truth, are the highest terms to express the highest experience or mind, we need a principle of one for there to be oneness. We need a principle of good for there to be goodness, and for there to be a lesser and greater expression of truth, we need the ultimate principle, true. So we can understand human problems as just using these terms. What color? This one. Human problems isn't some evil, sinister force who doesn't believe in Israel or doesn't believe in Mormon magic underpants, who doesn't believe that the Protestants are better than the Catholics, and then it wants to make you do bad things. The devil making you evil, making you a sinner, bollocks. That's just baby-brained garbage.
The hell's wrong with you people? You sick freaks.
Sick freaks.
I've been a bad little girl.
It is a lesser, see, we can use these terms, a lesser expression of these standards that people desire. And we can use reasoning to understand it. Belief is the identification with these lesser terms within the oneness groups. We accept the limits of Christianity. We will not read Harry Potter because my preacher said it was the devil. And we are at war. We don't like people who are free from that limitation of the Ten Commandments. How can you be moral if you don't accept their limits? We are apart. We are the Jews. We are the chosen people. And we are at war with humanity, the whole. And so on and so on. For all belief-based groups, primarily in society, conservatism, we are the MAGA. We hate everyone. Religion, we are the chosen people. We get to genocide the others. And capitalism, we are the special boys who are the billionaires. We work harder than you and we take more risks. So we get to kill the rest of humanity for profit and for fun. So that's the nature of human problems. Belief, which can be understood as the lesser or identification with the lesser in conflict with the greater. See? So we can use these terms, we can use lesser and greater, and of course, identification of self. That's the key word we have to use. Or personality max.
Personality.
Maxing requires you to look inward on a deeper level, and it's harder to fix because then you have to make fundamental changes to who you are as a person, and it's because it feels like a much more core component of themselves that they don't want to change. Like, it's like, well, then if I change this, who am I?
Who am I? Understanding, it's a different color, is the greater. Understanding. Understanding is the identification of self with the greater that can therefore use understanding to benefit the lesser. The same way you and we are developing understanding to remove our limitations that keep us stuck in a cycle of problems and reincarnation time, we can pass that on to others. Hang on a second. Let's go back to here. If the lesser is belief and the greater is understanding, we're missing one, the ultimate. So if these are the greatest words and descriptors, can't get much higher than beauty, justice, excellence. You can't get more primary than whole and part. You can't get more axiomatic or the principle of principles than analogy, lesser, greater, and whole, or lesser, the greater, and ultimate. These are the highest terms we have. If the highest terms are used to define the greatest experience, what's the standard for each of those terms? In other words, for there to be these highest expressions of goodness, what do we mean by the word good? For there to be true, false, or lesser and greater in terms of true and false, what do we mean by true? What's the standard? What's the original one that doesn't have a, not one and many, not self and other, what's one itself? And of course, as we can recognize, if these are all nouns, these are all the things themselves that are used as adjectives in the physical world, then we have gone from the lesser, the specifics, the differences, beautiful things, beautiful streamer.
That one's exactly.
It's
Beautiful
not
streamer.
being crazy. It's called
Okay.
reaching a higher sense of being.
The more holes, the better.
All right.
Goon, 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 goon.
Okay, calm down, all of you. Beautiful adjectives to the noun. But we've been using a single adjective to describe all of the highest nouns. Whole itself, beauty itself, justice itself. Therefore, double jump, like in Mario Brothers, double jump. Jump from the lesser to the greater, and then use that same principle to jump to the ultimate. To understand that even when we are talking about mind, we are still using self as an adjective, meaning self is higher than mind. Therefore, could the original principle or axiom or standard of what color? The standard of one true and good not just the standard, but the standard that we seek as our ultimate goal, our goal. That's also a principle that we live every moment according to. Principle. Because every moment, don't you want to know the truth and seek goodness and want to reason properly? Is that the self? If so, we can see, well, belief as the lesser cognitive function identifies their self with the lesser. What? Identification of self with the lesser that functions therefore in conflict with the greater. Understanding, allowing us to go through these steps of reasoning, would not be an identification of self with the greater, because we've just seen the self has to be even more primary than the greater. Even in this greater experience, or the greater experience of reality as the whole of all parts, there we go, we just picked out the terms, this is how we can use understanding. There has to be something experiencing it, the ultimate. Therefore, understanding isn't the greater as an identification with self, it's your state of mind. Right? It's mind. Let me just fix the blackboard. There we go. So understanding, therefore, would be the state of mind as your highest. State of mind of the greater, the whole, the model, the general, greater. That can function to, not in conflict, the cause of all human problems, belief, but to benefit the lesser, solve problems, go from parts to whole. So those are the two cognitive functions we can make use of in time. Therefore, rationally speaking, we can identify. See, notice, none of this is belief. This isn't because Abraham said it, or Abe Lincoln says it, or any of these other beliefs from physical senses, people, and opinions. These are the literal building blocks of thought, just used to recognize the things that we can do. Therefore, our purpose would therefore be, I said therefore twice, to move from, so our human purpose or meaning of life would therefore be to move from beliefs to understanding, which of course allows us to experience the greater and integrate it. And we've been using an analogy to talk about this as goal A, Mario crushing the Turts, Koopa Troopers, Turtle. That's Mario crushing the Turts. Or Purif to represent the purification of our false beliefs. At the same time, we have to be seeking the excellence of our understanding. That's Mario kissing the princess. There's the princess. The sweet boobs in her juicy ass. Her crown. Mario with his hat on. Oh. Crown. And they're kissing. and Huggy. Are two functions that we can fulfill, that we are here to fulfill as human beings. And we are seeing that our relationships and our species is showing the implications of not doing that. Because currently we allow belief to be the standard of truth. We allow belief to make claims about truth, to make claims about what's good for people or what benefits, and is a claim to expertise. By saying that truth, benefit, and expertise, or rational understanding, to be an expert on something, to be able to find the parts and bring them into a whole, to recognize sameness and differences, that's the axiom of the book, the catchphrase of the book. Everything is relative. Truth is relative to your opinion. Expertise is just a matter of perspective. If I'm on a plane and I've had a few rums and I think, oh, I'm pretty popular, I'm pretty cool, I could land this plane. Let me into the cockpit. I mean, do you know people like that who are so confident in their own beliefs and opinions that they think they can fly, they can land a plane? Would we ever let them into the cockpit? No. Why? Because when it matters, we say, okay, well, while we say people are entitled to their opinion, we don't mean when I'm gonna die on that plane. When I have to go to surgery, I don't want any confident, drunk, arrogant person to think, well, I think I'm a doctor, I could do surgery. I'm great at a lot of things. Look how rich I am. No, not when I'm going under the knife. So it's that we have to take it, we have to learn to think, reason one step further as human beings and say, hey, as it is for flying or landing a plane, as it is for performing surgery, so too for politicians who currently are allowed to claim truth, benefit, and expertise, the three categories of mind, while being in fucking conflict with mind. Believers, you should have to demonstrate an understanding of the truth. That's it on the board. What is beneficial, that's what we've been doing, and how to reason to put it together. Same thing for religion. Well, I just believe because some guy said to some guys 1 billion years ago that we are the best boys and we get to have all of the things, and I'm better because I'm a man. Bullshit. Capitalists. Well, I believe that I know what's best for the economy. It's me having everything. Hooray! That's the absurdity that we currently allow in our ignorant state of being. If humanity is going to survive its collapse, human extinction, the destruction of the planet, we have to take note of this book that we've been reading and what we've been seeing as a result of it. The difference between belief and understanding. So we're playing out the significance. We're experiencing in real time the implications of not doing it. Human extinction, genocide, mass murder, mass exploitation. Everyone except for a few dozen billionaires hating reality, hating life. This is belief. All we have to do is crush that turtle by understanding the pathologos and learn about understanding so we can demand it for our own rulership of our soul as the guiding force in our relationships and the guiding force or expertise, benefit, and truth in anything in society. That's called waking up to being an intelligent species. Okay, so there's a structure we also get from these terms. Lesser is to greater is to ultimate. A is to B is to C. That's analogy. In the last few eps, we've seen that human conflict is playing out the analogy A is to B. Whoever my teacher A, usually a parental figure, was to me, I seek a position where I can use those same stupid beliefs to act like I know shit. I want to do unto others what was done unto me. So that becomes the axiom. Do unto others what was done unto me. This is the mathematical expression of that, and that's the axiom, the sick axiom, the sick or pathologos axiom. What's axiom? The principle that you seek as a goal and is your standard of truth. And also it's the cause of all of your problems. So in other words, this, as we've seen on the board, the greater is mind, oneness, goodness, and truth, which has its aspects in these tables, these basketball teams full of players, if you like. That's the greater. But there has to be an ultimate standard. There has to be a cause for all of those. There has to be a goal that we seek in our life as a soul with these motivating forces. Notice the three forces that we have in our soul seek those three categories. We seek oneness and reasoning. We seek truth in finding the true analogy, truth of reality, and we desire goodness. Those are those three categories. So it's the standard that allows us to see the difference in those lesser, greater, and ultimate, and it's also the goal that we seek. Therefore, that's the axiom. A principle that you live by, a goal that you seek, the standard of truth, standard of benefit, desire, the standard of expertise, understanding. And it's the first cause. That's the true axiom. To know thyself. To know and show thyself. Function through it. There we go. Whereas the sick axiom is to do unto others what was done unto me. Therefore, understanding has its own mathematical equation or analogy. As we learn from this book, or from the author, Pierre Grimes, we then can play the teaching role and help someone else. A is to B as B is to C. That's a mean analogy because there's a mean term. That's called the Dharma, or true teaching. Notice, believers do not seek to make you like them. The Pope doesn't say, I want everyone to be equal as Pope. Conservatives don't say, I don't want everyone to be equally billionaires and live on Epstein Island. Religious people don't say, we want everyone equally to be chosen people. Or capitalists don't say, we want everyone equally to be billionaires. They're always strict, rigid hierarchies with them on the top, created from their own bullshit-ass beliefs from their bullshit-ass parents. from their parents and their parents all the way back to the cave. Whereas true teaching, which turned out to be the true axiom that we should live our life by. True teaching, the fancy name for that is the Dharma, because it's not just a informative, it's also a spiritual teaching, so we can call it the Dharma. You become like the teacher because you function as the teacher. And you make that lesser term so we can expand it. A is to B as you are to some friend, and then your friend masters this and can teach someone else, and so on and so on. It's a lineage. But also each person can add to the tradition, add new insights, add their own spin. That's ousia. You learn it and then you pass it on to someone else. So you're learning, and then you turn around and you help someone else, and then they learn and they turn around and help someone else. That's the progression of ousia. Whereas, so we can call this ousia, or no, anagogic. Why anagogic? Anagogic means, this is a key word that we've been using, anagogic. Upward moving analogy. Everyone wins. It's a win-win-win. Win-win-win-win-win. Yeah, if the oracle says so, it has to be true. Right, Emma?
The more holes, the better.
Calm down.
It's a total shit show.
Well, only because you're gooning too hard.
Gooners.
Gooners?
You sick fuck.
Hey, calm down.
Bitch.
Oi! Analogy. Anagogic analogy. Whereas the sick axiom, the sick principle, so we could say, well, beliefs are the cause of human problems. Well, actually, no. Because we all get beliefs. It's what we do with them. If we seek axiom that we live by, to do unto others what was done unto us, we are not reflecting on our beliefs. That's the issue. Leaving beliefs as they are, allowing religion to exist as a expertise about truth and benefit for the spirituality. Allowing capitalism to exist. Racist slave owners knowing the expertise and what benefits an economy. Allowing conservatism to exist as a political group. It's not a political group. It's a veneration of the pathologos. Why? It's a redundant analogy. It's a redundant, oh, use a different color. Mix it up a bit. A redundant or stagnant. So redundant in terms of math, stagnant in terms of how it functions within a human being, soul, relationship, or society. Stagnant. Analogy. So, analogy, the activity of truth, lesser. See, A is to B is to C. Is that? Oh, move this over a little bit. Move them over a bit here. Analogy, we see see, these self-logos terms allowed us to define human sickness and greatness or excellence. An analogy allows us to understand why human beings are in the problems we're in, because this is the activity. These are the activities. So we're wondering about axioms, and we have the terms, and we have the activities. The sick, redundant analogy. Sometimes that's called Peter's principle. Peter's principle is a principle people rise to the position in their career of their incompetence. So if you do well in a job, you get, this is just a silly principle, you get a promotion. Obviously it doesn't work always this way. You get a promotion, you do well in that job, you get a promotion, you do well in that job, get a promotion. Now you suck at this job, no promotion. So now you spend your life doing this job you suck at. Now, this is the pathologos Peter's principle. We seek a position where we can play out the same ignorance and injustice we suffered, because this became our belief-based standard and our axiomatic goal, to others with impunity. So a lot of bootlickers of capitalists, religion, and fascists or conservatives, like let's take Trump. Obviously, he's a billionaire scammer. All billionaires are. You can't work. No fucking billionaire has worked 1 billion times harder than everyone else. That's insane. So, he's a billionaire scammer. He manipulates the religious, the Christian evangelicals, and he's in the fascist party, the conservative party. Notice the 30% of American population who support him do so because they want to be in that position themselves. As the expression goes, they don't consider themselves working class or proletariat. They consider themselves temporarily embarrassed billionaires. I like that Trump can do crimes because I want to do crimes. That's the issue. That's why they don't, you can't reason them out of their problems.
The problem is that you can't reason someone out of a position that they didn't reason themselves into.
Because they're not interested in reason. Reason is the realm of understanding. They're interested in belief. Doing unto others the same injustice, ignorant injustice was suffered.
People don't logic their way into stupid positions.
They stupid their way into stupid positions.
They stupided their way in.
I've been a bad little girl.
Calm down.
Brain of a baby.
Exactly, brain of a baby. Is that a new sound drop? Okay. So understanding is having this as your state of mind. So that defines our purpose. Let's move the axioms over a little bit for now. Let's move them up here. Get them out of the way. So we need to find the general and the specific. So, using the terms from the text that we have been reading, what have we learned about actual expertise? Well, we've seen that there is a sameness in the model. Like there is a standard of a healthy body that a doctor has to see. There is a standard for the perfect engine. But you might say, well, hang on a second, you'll never see a perfect ideal body. That's right. It's a principle in mind that applies for everyone. But you also have to understand the differences or aspects of that model. So this is the higher, the greater. other computer made a noise. So therefore, in understanding, we have to use understanding to, one, rise to the model, mind. We have to reflect on the aspects of that model. So we have the sameness and difference, or whole and parts. Therefore, then we can use those two to therefore help someone who is different from that model, has a sick engine, has a sick body, or is functioning through their pathologos beliefs. So that's benefit. So we can turn back and benefit. Okay, we've been talking about the dialectic and analogy used to understand the text. To pull out the key terms, arrange the terms in the analogy, and then use the dialectic to structure those terms into a single idea to reach that model, which is a peak experience, a non-physical experience. So the experience of mind, we can use all of these terms because all of these terms are the differences or aspects within intelligence or mind. Therefore, they're all there. So you can say, oh, that peak experience of mind knowing itself is the greatest whole of the greatest parts. It's the greatest sameness that accounts for all differences. And so on. It's the greatest beauty. It's the greatest justice. It's reality itself. So it's this as a whole. So that's the peak experience or the enlightenment experience. Mind usia-ing, turning around to know itself. After that experience, you can reflect on it. So what we're doing here is both. Well, so what we are doing here is understanding the whole, which is a kind of contemplation or meditation, which opens us up for that experience. But we're also learning the understanding, the logos, the aspects or the inherent intelligibility of mind, so that when we have those experiences, we can, number two, reflect on it, understand it, use it, integrate it. Hey, by the way, would that be the model of beauty? So therefore, any creation you want to make in your life, wouldn't you use this as the standard or model of beauty? Would it be the standard of justice? Hey, if you wanted a just society, would you have to have some model that accounts for sameness in the highest way? All human beings have the same dignity, have the same value, have the same meaning? Whereas all tyranny and violence and oppression is to say that some people are better than others because they're black or because they're Jewish or because they're rich, religious, conservative, capitalist. So for any, by the way, this is true not just for humanity, but for any species. Oops. For any species to survive or evolve, there has to be a highest idea of sameness, bring everyone together, take care of everyone, universal principles universally applied. but has to account for differences in the highest way. Evolution, right? The differences that can improve, that can allow for growth, that can allow for change. Therefore, we can see how this is the model and standard of societies. All societies, at any time, in any history. Understanding can therefore benefit the lesser. A learning of these terms, its use in analogy to recognize what is true or greater and what is lesser, what is false, and how to use the dialectic to help someone through their becoming pregnant with and delivering the idea, philosophical midwifery, is what we use to benefit. Philosophical midwifery to address the pathologos, to recognize the distorted analogy, the lesser reflection of the logos. Just as the dialectic is what we use for the logos. Now you might say, well, technically, you can be a midwife helping people develop their understanding because you can get pregnant with those two kinds of beliefs. So you can see when someone is ready to give birth to those higher ideas earlier in the book. But generally speaking, dialectic means the structure itself, and midwifery is its application, usually talked about by purifying the pathologos. We can also use this map of the greater and lesser, sameness and difference. These are the primary ideas from the book, right? Because all of this is just everything we've seen in the book about what defines actual expertise. But we also saw a definition of ignorance, which is if someone was imitating the surgeon, they only relate to sameness. That same surgery that they are copying, that same song that they are playing, they can only play it like the same way. They can only do that surgery the same way at all. Sameness. That's all they can do. They can only imitate their model. They can't deal with differences. And their level of sameness is in the lesser. So, human ignorance or injustice is the sameness in imitation in the lesser, stuck in that loop of doing the same thing. Sameness relating to sameness. All I can do is do that same surgery, provided the same kind of person comes in with the same kind of illness. That's belief. The one thing belief can do: imitate. Not sameness of truth or universal model. As my preacher told me this stuff about women being bad because of Emma. Sorry, Emma.
You've been a bad little girl and you're getting a vigorous spanking right now.
Right. Eve, not Emma. Eve did a bad thing, therefore women get to be oppressed and abused. So too will I do it. As at the time of recording, there's that thing about the Graham Plattner or some Nazi American soldier who quite enjoyed torturing and abusing people in vulnerable positions. If he became the captain and allowed that for his unit, they would all imitate him. Right? As a corrupt cop says no one speaks up against police corruption, oh well, I guess we'll just imitate him. As Trump does scams, all the MAGA says, well, hey, Trump was racist and scammer, then I can be a racist scammer. That's belief. So when people say all cops are bastards, they're not saying, well, that you are specifically a bad person. No, it's the position itself. It isn't based on understanding the root causes of problems, the root principles of problems, the fake standards, as we are doing here. It's imitation, abusing the same people the same way my sergeant abused people. No understanding. Retributive justice. Inflicting punishment. So punishment is also the tool of the ignorant. The abandonment of intelligence. And we can understand that using what have we used? We've used sameness and difference from the text, which is, of course, the oneness selfers or terms. We've used lesser and greater, which is, of course, the truth terms. And we can judge belief as injustice badness or harm, injustice and harm, and understanding therefore can benefit, which is just. Another word for just is out, or X out. Therefore, this is our justice, our excellence, and benefit. Move that down here, actually. Whereas belief is injustice and harm. That's the goodness. Selfers. Oneness for sameness and difference. And the truth terms. For greater and lesser. So we've ticked the boxes, haven't we? We've got the oneness terms, the goodness terms, and the truth terms. We've got the functioning of the dialectic in understanding, and its lesser reflection in belief. And also debate. So the opposite of the dialectic, which uses the logos, is debate to defend, or rhetoric to lie, using language, this one here.
I have known people who go to therapy, but they don't actually want to grow and improve and change as people. They just use all the therapy speak to help, like, continue being a shitty person.
That's rhetoric and debate. To justify the pathologos. just as reason and dialectic is to follow the logos. So we have all of the terms we've been talking about, different categories of the self-logos terms, the dialectic activity, the analogy activity, and also we can bring in the key principles, causes, standard goals, axioms, and anagogic. So there's the map. The map of the human condition and actual expertise from the book. What makes you an expert? You can use understanding to find the sameness of the model. You can reflect on that model with understanding to find its aspects. You can use both to deal with differences from that in the lesser. Whereas imitators, scammers, con artists, believers, debaters try to give the appearance of expertise but can't actually help anyone by relating to sameness in the lesser. So the sameness of physical appearances, not the sameness of non-physical models, and doing the same physical thing. Sameness and sameness. All right, for us. Therefore, to play this game, to fulfill our purpose, to do what we're here to do, to be a just or beneficial person or good person, there are certain axioms you have to trust at the beginning. Excellence is reachable via the logos. That's this one. That's number one. Or 1 and 2 together, right? Number 2, problems are solvable via the pathologos. Oh, that's number 3. But because we need the specifics and the general, we need our specifics our personal pathologos problems and our and to develop our personal development of understanding. Division, both. Guidance for both comes through dream analysis. Analysis, not interpretation. Analysis. Right, Emma?
Spit on me.
Hey, calm down.
Damn, you really are a gooner.
Dead-eyed, and I don't use this kind of terminology lightly, dimwits.
So the inherent intelligibility of our excellence, the whole and part, mind and its aspects, the inherent intelligibility of our problems, understanding both what belief is, rhetoric, debate, pathologos, sameness to sameness, doing unto others, as was done unto us. And the inherent intelligibility of our dreams is necessary for the guidance for both. Yesterday we looked at the idea that, hang on a second, this is what these structures give us. We can recognize when we're missing a term. Other back to self or conclusion. Is there a synthesis? So conclusion has synthesis. Is there a key idea or causal idea or a more primary idea, that gives us a single other. An analysis, synthesis and analysis, that we then apply. Different color. Let's hair drop.
Personality maxing requires you to look inward on a deeper level, and it's harder to fix because then you have to make fundamental changes to who you are as a person. And it's because it feels like a much more core component of themselves that they don't want to change. Like, it's like, well, then if I change this, who am I?
We apply back to the definition to understand it in a higher way, making this process anagogic. Why? Because we've unfolded from the definition back to the definition definition 1 unfolded through the dialectic to return back to the definition, but now we have a higher definition 2. The anagogic movement of ousia. Ousia, turning back upon the start. So, from all the divisions, all of the dreams we've analyzed, is there a key idea behind every single dream? What would it be? Is there a causal idea? What's the cause of dreams? What's the most primary idea? Well, they're all intelligible. They're intelligible about the logos that is true and the logos that is false, both of which isn't the self, but your self is going through a development from one into the other. But if they're both not the self, there has to be not only a greater and a lesser, but an ultimate standard or principle beyond both, the logos and the pathologos, that the dream maker must have a knowledge of and is functioning through in its creation of the dreams. Therefore, it seems, and again, this is an axiom, you have to prove it for yourself, the dream maker knows about yourself and functions through the inherent intelligibility, we'll write that, inherent intelligibility of the logos and pathologos, by creating by creating stories and drama to analogously communicate to benefit dreamers. What's that got to do with what we're talking about? How does that help us reach an excellence via the logos? Hang on a second. The logos of the self, the logos, the pathologos, and the self, could that be the highest axiom or standard or the highest principle or cause of the self logos? Does it know that standard of one good true, the self, that's expressed in the greater and the lesser, axiom 1 and axiom 2? So it uses the principle of the self logos to create dreams. A creating the B. That's that mean term that allows us, the dreamer, the C term, we can also reflect on that mean term. Provided we're doing the same thing. Dream analysis. Therefore, giving us the anagogic or the Dharma, A is to B as B is to C, which can be simplified as that. So the anagogic analogy is ideally expressed through the self-logos in the creation of texts that we're reading or dreams that we have, that provided the person reflects on it in a similar way, can benefit. Benefits in the highest way, sometimes called providence. That's the mastery of the art. The art is has to benefit. Oh, there's our anagogic analogy. Uh-oh. How do we do it? If the dream maker is somehow knowing and functioning through, knowing and showing is shorthand, it rhymes. Knowing and showing the self logos, the inherent intelligibility of the self to communicate to us about our excellence and our problems that we are doing. Is it therefore our standard? Is it our ideal that we are seeking? Isn't that the Dharma that we want to do? To be in, the true anagogic analogy? Therefore, if that's our synthesis, if this is the key idea, the dream maker knows the self and functions through it, through the inherent logos and pathologos, through its inherent intelligence, knowing the logos and pathologos, creating stories through analogy, to analogically, and also anagogically communicate to benefit dreamers. Therefore, because of that, analysis would be synthesis. Analysis. Make a different color though. Right, Emma?
Butt to butt.
Oh, butt to butt, Emma.
Dumbass.
Hey,
Queen of gooning.
yeah, it's a Queen of Gooning thing to say.
You are beautiful and everybody loves you, and you have the
goodness.
most beautiful breasts and the
Oh.
juiciest ass.
Oh wow. No wonder she's going butt to butt. And as I didn't make her say that, I don't know why she said it, but she said it. And it's on myself. Analysis. Therefore, via the logos, via the pathologos, via dream analysis, via dream analysis, we can reach, well, the structures we put the via next. The dream maker may be modeling not our greater excellence, but our ultimate excellence and goal of knowing and showing the self via the self logos. Which involves the self logos term. All of these things up here, the terms, the structure, the activities. Self logos and creation. Creating our dreams, creating every universe that we experience in our dreams, but also maybe creating each moment. If there is an inherent intelligibility within reality, and we are participating in it as intelligent beings who have evolved to the capacity for self-reflection, ousia, and logos, reason. Therefore, taking this back to the self, back to the first definition, excellence is reachable by the logos and dream analysis. And our ultimate excellence is reachable through dream analysis. So that's our goal, functioning via self logos and creation, analogy, self-logos and creation through dialectic, structure of dreams, and analogy through its terms. Analogy. And so for this to be an axiom, so that's our synthesis and analysis. The conclusion stage. So we took our missing term in the dialectic to come up with the final axiom. Axiom 1, excellence is reachable via the logos. Axiom 2, problems are solvable via the pathologos. Number 3, guidance for both. More than just guidance, isn't it? Guidance for and achievement of both via dream analysis, and finally the conclusion or the fourth axiom within the structure of axioms, our ultimate goal of knowing and showing the self. Knowing and showing self via the self logos. That includes the terms, the analogy, the dialectic, creation. Is reachable via dream analysis, and reflection upon the dream maker itself. See, that's a conclusion. It takes a synthesis, applies it back to the beginning. Therefore, our excellence is reachable via the logos. The highest expression of that happens as you reach that, as you go through this reading that we do here together and understanding, as you remove your false beliefs and pathologos. Again, we have to be defining the logos, defining the difference between beliefs and understanding, defining the dialectic to be able to demonstrate it, to remove your problems. You won't find all the missing pieces and complete that activity, both your guidance for reading and your achievement of mastering the text and your achievement of freeing yourself from your pathologos without dream analysis. Therefore, after having gone through these first three axioms, you can return back to the beginning, and now your definition of the excellence reachable via the logos has enhanced, because now you know there is an ultimate excellence modeled by our dream maker that is not only having reached excellence, but can function through excellence, can create. And what it creates is the mean term for the Dharma. You as a dreamer can participate in the mind of the ultimate through dream analysis, through a shared middle term, a mean term. Without that mean term, how could we learn? How could we grow? There has to be a mean term for teaching. Notice the opposite of belief. So we've demonstrated ousia, the highest kind of analogy, and also the idea of axioms. Okay, so I had to go through this one more time to nail it down for myself, but also because we have a new Blackboard, but also to see if the achievement of 1 and 2 only happens through 3, if the reaching of our excellence, including mastering this book we're reading, and the removal of our problems, removing all the blocks to mastering this book we're reading, can only happen through dream analysis, and our ultimate goal can only happen through dream analysis and reflecting on the dream maker, we have to nail down this part: how C relates to B. Dream analysis. How do we do dream analysis? That's our ticket. That's the most important thing, it seems. The highest activity and expression of the dialectic and logos. Dream analysis. Oh, and you always have dreams. Like a third of your life is spent dreaming. Let's learn how to make use of that. Pay attention. So we saw that the principle of dream analysis is the dreamer, the dream maker, is to our dreams, A is to B, as we are to C, the dreamer, relate to our dreams too. So in other words, the aspects and activity that it uses in creation, we have to figure out how to use in analysis. What's its tool? Analogy and dialectic. And what's the most important thing?
You're not going to magically force someone to want to get better. You have to come to that conclusion yourself. You have to want to get better, get better, get better, get better.
We need that question that propels us to want to reflect on our dreams. We need that question. We need that opening curiosity. So, good thing we've done all of this work, because all of this stuff here, work, fun, play, exploration, having a good time, spending our time, well, not under the thumb of capitalist fucking landlords and tyrants and fascists and business people, but exploring what will be true for everyone, even if we die tomorrow. And ourselves. So, because all of these things, in the fun we have, we need to make use of in figuring out how do we participate in our dreams. So, from that, now you've woken up, you've recorded your dream into the audio app. You may have even set an alarm to go off every couple of hours, so you make sure your dreams are fresh in your mind, because you get different dreams every 90 minutes to 2 hours. Even if you think you don't, you do. It's a matter of setting that alarm and practicing recording it. You've transcribed it. You may have even saved time by using an app. How do we find our opening question or puzzle or starting point. For dream reflection. Remember our tool? Analogy. So, we want to use analogy, but we want to structure our thinking properly to discover what's there to be seen, so we need the dialectic. Definition. Let's start with definition. Hang on. So, definition. What are the definitions? Let me adjust my seat or something. Should I turn on my fan? All right, I'll turn on my fan. Hold for a second. All right, so the definitions of analogy. What are we looking for? We're looking for an analogy to open up your curiosity about your dream. Definition is, what are the analogies themselves? Self to self. That you can become curious about. Well, once again, dialectic again. So let's use definition. Kick it off. Definition or self to self. What's an analogy that is the thing itself is to the thing itself, or the self is to the subject? Oh, by the way, just as we just real quick, just so we have some bearing on what we're doing and why we're using the dialectic. Just as analogy is the expression of lesser, greater, and ultimate, or the ultimate expression of that, the dream maker is to our dreams. So the inherent intelligibility of our dreams is even greater than us, the dreamer, because we have a combination of logos and pathologos. Our dreams are an analogical reflection of that to help us, and the dream maker is even greater. The ultimate. The dream maker is even ultimate, even greater than that, in that it creates it. For 8 billion people on this planet, plus all the animals that dream, 4 or 5 times a night. Imagine that level of intelligence. Isn't that interesting? That may be our ultimate goal ourselves? To know and show the self-logos? In that kind of a way, that is providential for the development of all intelligent beings? By the way, isn't that what we recognize evolution to be? Like the stages of evolution, hunter-gatherer, and then eventually we're supposed to be custodians of the planet. We can evolve from one-dimensional thinking, sensation. Even ants and grubs have sensation. 2-dimensional thinking, animals, cows, aren't they lovely? Aren't they sweet and adorable? They have sensation and perception. But we are supposed to be custodians, guidance. Custodian might be the wrong word. To have rulership over them so we can benefit them because we have sensation, perception, and concepts. So we should be taking care of all the animals, all intelligent life, and our planet. But of course, for concepts, we have the double-edged sword of the lesser distortion of the concepts in belief. So currently we are doing the exact opposite, which is why our planet is dying, intelligent life is suffering, and our species is on the verge of extinction. If we care about humanity at all, and we want to see if there is a purpose of humanity within a greater whole of the cosmos, we need to wake up to doing that third-dimensional thinking properly. This is what we're doing here. Of course, what would it be to be a fourth-dimensional entity? Or cognition? What would it be? Some awareness of the realm of being? Is that what we're doing? Learning fourth-dimensional thinking because all of these things are outside of time? They're not concepts. their selfers or eidos, aspects of being, sometimes called eidos in Greek, or the Englishified version, ideas with a capital I. So beyond concept, capital I, ideas. What would that say about fifth dimensional intelligence? That can make use of the ideas in the in creation. Is that our dream maker? Is that the self that we're after? I don't know. But these are the sorts of questions we need to fulfill our ultimate purpose. To reflect upon the dream maker. See? We're becoming pregnant by asking these questions. So anyway, why were we talking about evolution for a second? Oh yes, rulership over lesser dimensional entities. Therefore, we can make sense of why axiom 3 and 4 are true. Just as the most intelligent of our species should be having guidance over the lesser. So fourth dimensional thinkers, philosophers. Why? They have the model of reality. They understand its differences and aspects. They can use it to benefit human beings going through this process. So let's complete this map here. That's actual expertise. But there is a fourth function of understanding to use this to reflect on the higher cause. The ultimate, so lesser, greater, ultimate. What is the sameness of knowing the self and the differences within self, the inherent self logos. Therefore, number 3 is axiom 2, problems are solvable. 1 and 2 is axiom 1, our excellence is reachable. All of those are facilitated through axiom 3, dreams, and axiom 4 seems to relate to that fourth functioning of understanding. Notice, understanding has those 4 primary functions, meaning 4 terms sounds like type for a dialectic, whereas belief only has 1. Sameness of sameness, physical sameness, lesser sameness, doing the same thing all the time. Injustice and harm, rhetoric and debate. So, we want to reach our ultimate, well, we want to fulfill our purpose, do the good things. So what's the definition of, so what are we doing? We're getting definitions of analogy. Because that's what the dream maker uses to create. That's what we have to use to understand. Analogy. By the way, everything we learn about this, we can equally apply to the book we're reading. That's why we read these books. You can use analogy to unpack the meaning of the book and dialectic and the Self of terms. See, without knowing these Self of terms, we recognize these One of the big puzzles in the text is what makes someone an expert. Harry thinks he's an expert. Conservatives, religious people, and capitalists think they're experts as they sweep death and destruction across the land. People like Harry, who are graduates of philosophy courses in colleges and universities. Why? Because they think they know shit they don't. Because modern philosophy is philodoxia, a love of personal opinions. It's all relative. Well, I like when Kant said this, but I actually like when Hegel says this. Who cares what you like? Who the fuck cares? So you can quote Hegel and Nietzsche to support your own dumbass opinions. Congratulations, you are more entrenched in your ignorance. You're dumber than someone who didn't go through philosophy class. Now, understand truth. Then you can come back and judge how well Hegel and Kant did, if you want to. But here's the thing. As soon as you graduate, Harry said, I don't think about these dudes anymore. The only time I've ever had to think about these dudes is in a debate with you. At no point did I care about, sorry, what framework do you agree with? No frameworks. Well, truth, understanding. The framework of understanding itself. Modern philosophy is a love of opinions. I like Kant's framework or Hegel's framework or Nietzsche's framework. Who cares? Did they get it right? You can only judge how well they did if you have used understanding to grasp the model of truth, goodness, and oneness. Reality. You have to also use your understanding to, thanks for the follow. Hooray.
They're secretly turned on by it.
And some people are turned on by it secretly. That's Emma on my soundboard. Don't mind her, she's a bit of a gooner.
Some goons and some gooners and some weirdos.
So to know the model of what is true, and to use understanding to reflect on that direct experience of the model to know its aspects. Then you can turn around and look at the differences in the lesser realm of personal opinions in the physical world. How well did Hegel get with his dumb opinions? How well did Kant get with his opinions? Where was he stuck? In other words, as you have gone through a perfection of the logos and dialectic and analogy through understanding, and you can't do that unless you address your false beliefs that block you, your pathologos, so too can you turn around and benefit someone else. That's teaching. That's true philosophy. That's beneficial. That's the principle of A is to B. As you learnt from this book or your work or your life, so too can you help someone else. Never happens in academic philosophy. Just idiots debating their idiot opinion. Now, that's not a personal statement. Some of them are charming, some of them are interesting to talk to because some of them are quite clever. But come on. Time to grow up, hey? Maybe we should put a stop to Nazism, fascism, capitalism, conservatism, religion, and start doing our work? No, but I agree with Nietzsche when he said this, but I sprinkle a little bit of Descartes when I think this. You're just finding ways to justify your own farts. I agree with all of my own opinions. I'm a realist. Anyway. That's not a personal attack, as I say. It's just the nature of beliefs in our academic system. Not philosophy. It's the opposite. So what? Why are we talking about that right now? I forgot. So, we want to understand. So, when you asked, or what framework do you agree with? We said, well, no, the framework of intelligibility, of reason. That's what we're using. So all of these terms we've been using, whole, part, same, different, that's not Nietzsche or Hegel or whatever. These are just the Lego pieces of thought, the building blocks of thought itself. Just as analogy is the structure that we use them in. Shepherd is to a sheep as a king is to his subjects. That's not an opinion. That's just a structure of thinking about things. So too dialectic, the structure of understanding. So, as A is to B as B is to C, represents the Dharma, true teaching, and analogy, the greater, the king, is to the lesser, the shepherd. So too, one and many, no, not one and many, self and other is what we're making use of in the dialectic. Oneness is the realm of reasoning and understanding. You bring an idea into a oneness. The beak of the chicken, the wings of the chicken, the feet of the chicken. Oh, a chicken! I understand it. I can name it. I can unify it. So those two, the four possible ways of using self and other. Put it on the board. We'll do it up here. The four possible ways of using dialectic. The most primary terms, self and other. Now you can say, well, you could even break them down. Hey, one and many, whole and parts, sameness and difference. Hey, the model itself is the sameness, the other aspects. So you can use the different beads on those necklaces if you want. But the most primary idea is the very first distinction you make is, I want to drink the drink. That's not myself. That's a chicken. I'm not going to give the drink to the chicken. That's other. So we have gone through it a few times, but let's put it on the board. What if the subject or the self in relation to itself? Definition. So if we're exploring the idea of beauty, what's beauty itself? Or even the conditions for it to be? What kind of universe would exist such that beauty exists eternally? Oh yeah, so we mean internally. So if it is, so this takes us out of academic philosophy, stupid opinions by stupid old white dead people, into the realm of existence, if it is or exists, eternally as a principle and a aspect of reality, and also a universe if it isn't. If it doesn't exist, how can you explore something that doesn't exist? Doesn't make sense. Wait a minute. The title of the book is What If It Is All Relative? If the subject or the self or the subject is relative. A bit messy. Let me clean that up a bit. What if the subject is relative to what? To non-eternal things, to physical things, the lesser realm, relative. What if it's relative? The lesser realm that we're using over here for belief, the world of physical appearances. Ever heard the expression, beauty is in the eye of the beholder? Ever heard a conservative say, well, I'm just a down-home old yokel, regular country Joe, and my puppy always told me that it's good for billionaires to work hard and get all the money. That's just my opinion, and I'm going to make it a law. Ever heard a religious person say, well, everyone's entitled to their religious opinions, and in fact, we should make the 10 Commandments laws. Ever seen a capitalist say, well, it's my opinion that capitalism is the best, actually, and we are in a... See? All of these fascistic fuckheads who are killing people for fun and profit and destroying our planet and species claim truth. Hey, welcome, Saint. Truth, benefit, and expertise is all relative to what? Personal opinion? To personal perspective? It's all relative. Well, it's just my opinion. It's my truth. Personal experience. Or beliefs. The nature of all human problems to claim these ideas are all relative to belief, which is the cause of all suffering and injustice, but also now we can see the purpose. Why are we in this world where the most fucked people who are claiming rulership via belief are doing the most fucked things, making everything terrible? Why is it only suffering for belief? It gives us what we need to populate this side of the dialectic. In other words, we're learning about these subjects, beauty, justice, truth, by seeing what happens if you don't recognize they exist in a non-personal way. What constitutes as fucked? Genocide? Slavery? Having to pay rent to some fucking billionaire? Mass murder? Human extinction? All of the byproducts of belief in rulership positions? I mean, more moral grays. What's moral gray about genocide? No, those things. See, that's the thing. They say, well, that's, you're saying, oh, that's just your opinion that genocide is bad. No, it's objectively bad. It's like if you were a doctor and you said, well, it's my opinion that I should try and kill some of my patients. No. Can't do that. It's not your opinion. No, like situations that are more moral grays. I don't know what you're saying. Like in truth is an objective standard. And if you are claiming expertise in that field, you better know the truth of what you're talking about. Saint asks, what's your take on this quote? If some individuals are permitted too much liberty, others are enslaved. This is how capitalism operates. If you are forced to be equal, everyone is enslaved. That's how communism. That doesn't make sense. What do you mean by liberty? Too much liberty? Liberty? Do you think slavery is liberty? No, that's injustice. I have the freedom to kill people. No, you're a fascist. That's not freedom. That's tyranny. Well, it's my personal belief. It's my opinion that it's actually justice. That's the problem. Liberty, freedom, justice, beauty, these are not personal opinions. These are true things that exist. And by exist, we mean aspects of reality that we are supposed to be harmonizing ourselves towards. That's the issue. So all of the things that we mentioned that are terrible are consequences that happen if you think beauty doesn't exist or justice doesn't exist. It's just a personal opinion. Objectively bad. You believe in some situations that are morally objective. We're not interested in belief. We're interested in understanding. See, belief is this side. When you explore an idea, you explore, okay, what if beauty exists? You talk about its definition. What can you say about beauty itself? See, we're using the building blocks of understanding, thinking. What can you say about it itself in relation to itself? What can you say about beauty? If it exists, by exists, we don't mean a moral grey or a personal opinion or my Aunt Betty's religious views or Elon Musk's political views. We mean as an aspect of being, a non-physical level of reality that's your mind, that contain the building blocks that we are using right now for conversation. There's an order to conversation. There are ideas. We're talking about wholes and parts. We're talking about the functioning of injustice or liberty or freedom. We're talking about the consequences. And we're hoping that if we discuss rationally in a good spirit, we will come to a truth that we can each understand collectively. Not because we agree, but because it's true. And we think that in doing so, we'll be able to benefit. All of these aspects we can use properly. All of these things are abused by fascists, debate perverts.
I'm a debate pervert.
And I have an axiomatic
Of the Bible.
Notice on Fox News and stuff, they don't reason properly. They yell at each other, they attack each other because they're not interested in what we are doing, exploring an idea step by step rationally using the building blocks of understanding. They're interested in defending their fascist bullshit so they can abuse people for personal profit and sadistic pleasure. That's belief. They want to do unto others, A is to B, as their parents did unto them, A is to B. And because they can't actually help anyone, that requires true understanding. That's not personal. That's not in this column. Personal opinion, personal perspective. It's not my personal opinion that the plane flies in this way. It's always the same. Every plane has to fly this way. Every pilot has to demonstrate an understanding of the whole, an understanding of its aspects so they can benefit the passengers. That's truth. That's expertise. We accept that for pilots, right? And mechanics and surgeons. The only people that get away with fucking fascism and genocide for their sadistic Epstein Island pleasure and their murdering of children, politicians, religions, and capitalists. Why? Because they claim expertise based not on truth and understanding, but on personal beliefs. So our question is, why do we live in such a disgusting world? Because it shows us what happens if we don't wake the fuck up and do our job. What's our job? What are the things that we have? We have the capacity for self-reflection, ousia, and the capacity to do so rationally, logos. And there are some balloons. That's the dialectic. The dialectic is rational self-reflection. If we don't do it, we suffer. In this lifetime, and as you are doing the injustice that your parents did unto you, unless you wake up and figure out what your own personal false beliefs are, you will suffer not only in this lifetime, but in what follows. So that's the stakes. So that's why we're understanding the structure of understanding. So we can move out of ignorance and baby brain bullshit, well, it's my opinion that blah, 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 into truth and understanding that we can all benefit from. That's the game. That's true philosophy. It's not academic philosophy. What I mean is, what is it like to say it's fucked when someone steals from a person so they give food to their family, but a store owner needed the money to feed their family? What? What are you talking about? Capitalism is bad. There you go. Get to the root cause. Why does that person have to steal? Oh, because some fucking billionaire Epstein-class fuckheads have stolen all the money and own all the resources because they say so, because they'll shoot you if you disagree with them? That's fucked. Why can't we all have food? Why do you have to steal?
You actually have to address the systemic inequalities. The people who believe that there should be hierarchies and that they should be above other people, that should just be addressed rather than just trying to segregate shit. Whoa, crazy.
Whoa, crazy. That's what we're doing. That's what understanding does. Gets to the cause of problems without blaming the victims. If some individuals are permitted too much liberty, others are enslaved. No, that's not true. Freedom isn't your freedom to hurt people. That's fucked. That's sadism. Why? Because you're encroaching on the freedom of others. That's not... Someone has fundamentally lied to you about what liberty means. You might want to wonder about who that was and why you believe them. If the mightily powerful people do whatever they want, the people will be enslaved. Yeah, the freedom isn't doing whatever you want. That's bad. I want to murder this puppy. Should I?
But my freedoms! If I don't kill the puppy, my freedoms! Oh, my freedoms will be hurt. My precious freedoms to kill a puppy.
No, that's fucked. Hey, when a patient comes into a doctor with cancer, and the doctor says, you have cancer, there is a fundamental illness and imbalance. You are not in harmony with the ideal that exists, not a personal opinion. It's not my personal opinion that you shouldn't have cancer cells. That's a true universal fact. Now, what I can do is use an understanding of what's true to cure your cancer. Doesn't ever a person say, well, I have the freedom to have cancer. It's my right to have cancer. Who are you to say no? The only people who defend illness, disharmony, injustice, and sadism are sick people. Notice the people who are saying capitalism is natural, slavery is normal, are the most fucked sociopaths in our species. If they say, well, I have a right to be sick and destroy the planet, it's my freedoms. In a healthy society, we wouldn't listen to those idiots. We would try and cure them from their sickness. Only it's not a physical sickness, it's the root cause of all human harm, belief. Some idiot taught them that doing bad things is good, actually, when they were too young to know better. Ever notice that Nazi racist Elon Musk has a Nazi racist father? I wonder where he learned how to live. That's the issue. Regarding the framework of reference, as moral subjects with bias, they think it's fucked for the other thing they're doing. Yes, we're not interested in what people think. We're interested in what's true. Yes, a stupid people will think stupid things. That doesn't make it true, right? We're understanding the truth. Why? Because if we don't, we will suffer. We will stay stuck in our own problems. We won't be able to master the text we're reading. We won't be able to answer the questions. Why are we here? What is mind? How far does it go? What is enlightenment? What happens when I die? What is the self? What's the meaning of it all? And how do I be a good person? You won't answer any of those questions if you spend your life defending your personal opinions and beliefs. All you do will be become more entrenched in this side of the dialectic. But presupposing that truth exists. Well, I don't think you have to presuppose that. You just have to think about it. Like, when we say 1 and 1 equals 2, we call that true, right? And when somebody says 1 plus 1 equals 5, we say that's false. So the ideas of true and false exist, right? The next step is, well, what else does it apply to? Does true and false applies to mathematics? Does it apply to how much change you get back at the store? Sure. Is there a true statement about where you parked your car last night when you got too drunk? Yeah. What about beauty? Is there a truth in beauty? Does it actually exist? That's the question. It's a good question. That's philosophy, okay? So when you have a question, what if truth exists? The truth of beauty. Now you're doing a dialectic. Okay? That's why we read. You get the terms, not from your own personal opinions. Well, my daddy says beauty is when a woman doesn't show any cleavage because it's humble in the Lord. No. We read these books from Socrates, Pierre Grimes, Homer, that have finished their job as human beings. And we get the key ideas from the text and we can arrange them in an analogy. What if beauty exists? Or what if beauty is just in the eye of the beholder? Just a personal opinion. And we can talk about beauty itself, definition. Notice we're using the two building blocks, the most primary units of thought, self and other. Beauty itself, how does it function in relation to another? Demonstration. For example, if beauty exists as an aspect of being, wouldn't that make you want to know the truth of reality? Because it's beautiful and you desire beauty by being a human soul? Demonstration. By the way, having been affected by that experience of beauty and raising yourself out of personal beliefs and debates and nonsense of babies into the real realm of mind, non-physical, eternal realm of truth, having been affected by that, how would you then relate to other others? How would you relate to your friends? How would you relate to the books that we read here? How would you relate to your dreams? Division. How would you relate to the other divisions via that being affected by that functioning? And finally, after living that kind of a life, as a result of that division, can you synthesize a key idea or other that you can then, like, has there been a key idea, a causal idea from relating to your friends by helping them go from beliefs to truth, from ignorance to enlightenment, from academic philosophy to real philosophy? Was there something that stood out to you in your own life, having done that, that allows you to relate back to the original idea, conclusion, other back to self, conclusion? In other words, that original definition of beauty, because you've arranged the terms in the structure of the dialectic, the structure of thinking, understanding, you return back to the original definition, having gained a new insight about beauty. That's the dialectic. It's a skill. You have to practice it. It allows you to understand the things that we read about in these books. But also, you do the same thing for if it doesn't exist. What if beauty doesn't exist? What if it was all personal opinion? What would you say about beauty then? In terms of itself? Well, you might say, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It's just an opinion. How does that function? Well, you can start a company and get beautiful supermodels to drink your poisonous product, your addictive poisonous product, so you can trick people to drinking Coca-Cola so you can make a lot of money and fuck them. As a result of that functioning, how do people relate to others? Well, if those guys are using marketing and capitalism to scam people for their own profit, then maybe I can as well. And as a result of living that way, how do people relate to the first idea of beauty? Do they pursue beauty? If that's all they know? Or they think, well, beauty's pretty stupid. Fuck philosophy. Philosophy's for idiots. If philosophy is about debating your own stupid opinion and not solving the fucking problems we face on this planet and in my relationships and in my soul, then what the hell good is philosophy? All I can do about philosophy is make jokes. You want a philosophy degree? You should practice saying you want fries with that, because you're not going to make it big in capitalism. Philosophy's just stupid anyway. See? That would be the universe of somebody living in that side of the equation. If you want to fully explore an idea, you have to tackle both possibilities. Using what you're reading from the text about beauty or justice, depending on what the book is, and saying what happens if it exists and what happens in a universe if it doesn't exist. Notice these four possibilities are the four possibilities of self and other. That's called thinking. That's not taught at school. So if this is understanding, if this is what allows us to understand the truth of reality and understand the cause of all human problems, and if that's true philosophy, what are we doing at school? This. Ignorance. So we still have capitalism, we still have religion, we still have Nazis doing Nazi shit because we're not teaching this in school. So that's what we're learning here, and we have to use that to learn to listen to our guide, our dreams. Let me catch up in the chat. That's not the subject matter I'm questioning. My contention is, how would you tackle these moral dilemmas with your normative framework? I don't know what you mean by normative. This is just thinking. Just using the building blocks of thinking to understand the source of problems and our excellence. You're comparing more ontological facts. Ontology is a fancy word for what exists, with established criteria we can use to detect them. What is the criteria for your moral framework? Again, you're using the framework, you're using the language of beliefs. Notice, your framework. This isn't mine. This is just truth. This is universal. Notice, your framework is about personal. That's this. That's not philosophy. That's philodoxia, love of opinions. We're doing truth. So it's not what's my moral framework. It's seeing as we have objectively understood human excellence, understanding, and human problems, the root cause for all injustice, sadism, and harm. The moral question is, what do we do about it? Is it our moral responsibility to learn the dialectic, apply it to our problems so we remove our own false beliefs, that's the cause of our injustice, and read these books and organize the key ideas from these books in the dialectic to master the truth? Is it moral because it is the goodness needed in our behavior and to remove our own injustice? We could even say, is it ethical? Because if we don't do that, we will allow the worst, most sick members of our species, believers, to claim rulership by saying truth doesn't exist, benefit doesn't exist, expertise doesn't exist. I think I benefit by murdering Palestinian children. I think I benefit by enslaving people under capitalism. But if we demand, hang on a second, I don't remember any doctors benefiting their patients by killing them, or mechanics benefiting their cars by destroying them, or IT professionals benefiting their computers by destroying them. There is for every single other profession, except for politics, economics, and religion, we demand understanding of the truth. Therefore, do we have an ethical responsibility to our society to do this as well? So we can demand never, ever, 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 ever beliefs, because it's the root cause of sadism and harm, to be in rulership, but only ever understanding for expertise. So that would be the moral and ethical question as a result of understanding. Next question in the chat. But how do you figure out who these stupid people are? Those that are more entrenched in their beliefs. That's it. More defending the belief? No, I'll kill every Palestinian because my mummy said we are the Jews and we're the chosen people. No, I'll kill every Protestant because I'm a Catholic and Jesus said blah, 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 blah. I'll kill all the liberals because President Trump said. It's just the same thing. The most fervently attached and loyal to beliefs you are, the more stupid and harmful you become. That's just the definition, because we have two ways of thinking in time. Beliefs or understanding. Beliefs are just imitating, as your parent did to you. That's what I believe, and now I'll find an opportunity to do it to someone else. A is to B is A is to B. And understanding is, well, figuring out there's a different way of thinking. Reason, evidence, experience, applied to our highest peak experiences of intelligence itself, reflecting on how we think, and figuring out how we can move from ignorance to wisdom. So yeah, stupid people are ignorant. By ignorant, we mean attached to beliefs. The good people are people who love understanding, good head, and good heart, have the desire to want to be better. Good head, good heart. That's the definition of a good person. Would you have to provide a means for that? Yes, absolutely. That's what we're doing. We're learning how we move from ignorance to wisdom. Good call. That's different from 1 + 1 is 2. It's different from opinions. Exactly. Yes, 1 + 1 = 2 isn't an opinion, but you could explore it as an opinion by saying, hang on a second, what if 1 + 1 = 2 doesn't exist? So create a universe where you can talk about truth itself, how it functions, the further implications of the functioning, and the conclusion in a reality where math was just a matter of opinion. And what you'll see is certain consequences follow. As a result of this, certain absurdities follow. Certain horrors follow. Imagine if you said that, well, it's my opinion that 1 and 1 is 5. How many R's are in horrors? Look it up. And you were building someone's house. Well, the house would collapse and kill the family. Wouldn't that be horrific? What if you said, I should be in charge of America because I have a belief that I'm the best person because I'm a billionaire? Racist. Wouldn't horrors follow? Genocides? Destruction, removal of any safety nets for business? Defunding of Meals on Wheels? Everything we see from MAGA? What would be the absurdities that follow? It's my opinion that 1 and 1 is 5, and math is just a matter of opinion. See, that's the thing. You can have fun with it. That's where humor comes from. Humor comes from pretending you live in a universe where the thing that exists doesn't, is taken as an opinion or a belief or a perspective. Why? Because absurdities follow and horrors follow. Let me see how many R's there are in horrors. Horror. 2 R's. Horrors follow. Which is a way of demonstrating that, oh, actually, what we are exploring must exist. Because if it doesn't, these crazy things in humor, or these horrific things in human life follow belief. Equally so, on the other side, you might see that there is a necessity for truth to exist in math, or a beauty that follows. Living in a universe where 1 and 1 is 2, doesn't matter if you're a Jew or a Palestinian or a poor person or whatever the fuck. Anyone can learn to think. Anyone can learn math. Anyone can learn truth. Anyone can build a house. Anyone can fly a plane, etc. See, this is how we think in order to establish what is true and what isn't, using the dialectic. Fun? It's only not fun when you're in this camp. When you are someone who isn't interested in truth and learning, got a bad head or a bad heart. You want to defend your belief. I need my Christian belief. Now, again, it's not a personal attack because we allow children to be raised in a fucking box where parents can play king priest. You've got no freedom. So hey, challenging Ma and Pa, this Mormon stuff that your whole life has been about is garbage, actually. That could be fatal. You could live in a community where your school is Mormon, your picnics on Sundays are Mormon, your Saturday night discos are Mormon. You might have grown up in a house where all you have heard from your family and extended family and friends is, if you're not Mormon, you will suffer and burn for eternity in hell. Therefore, you may think you need these beliefs, which you don't. If that's the case, you won't have fun, or it'll be harder to get to the point where you start having fun. That's why you need courage to keep going anyway. You need temperance to keep your cool as you face those counterattacks from within or from without. Give up. Don't learn understanding. Don't fulfill your purpose. So you need temperance to keep your cool, courage to keep going, wisdom to keep reading and reflecting and sharing it, understanding and explaining it as best you can, and justice to do it at all times. And finally, the 5th virtue, charm, to have fun with it. See if you can have fun along the way. Keep your state of mind and have fun as best you can. Those are the virtues that are required to go from where all human beings start to some level, to some degree, an attachment to belief, a feeling we need belief, a feeling it's rude to challenge beliefs, a feeling that, well, you know who else challenges beliefs? Nazis. I don't want to be a Nazi and say that some people can't have cancer. To overcome that indoctrination, false ideas of politeness, and go to the true side. Fulfill your moral and ethical responsibility. You'll practice those virtues along the way. That's what makes people good people. So that's our map. Can we use that to explore what's necessary for that journey? Now we need to be reading to learn what's true. We have to be taking notes. That's how we get the material that we put into this dialectic to understand beauty or justice. We need to be taking notes of the beliefs that's come up and say, hey, you're stupid, stop it. That's anti-Semitic, stop it. That's not MAGA, stop it. You'll never go to church if you think that way, stop it. You're too stupid to do this. If you can understand the meaning of life, that means you're better than all your professors. You can't be better than them. You're just a small bean. Take notes about all of those thoughts and feelings and thoughts, feelings, words, tangents, distractions, fantasies, states of mind. because they become the material for reflecting on your beliefs, your pathologos. So we have a set of terms of what's true and a set of terms of what's false that we surface and we arrange in the dialectic. Your guide for doing both of those things, A, removing what's false, and B, perfecting what's true, is your dreams. So our next step is, how do we use the structure of thinking to unpack or open up our dream analysis? And if dreams are some sort of ultimate creation, A, through a mean term B, that we can reflect on, C, we have to use the same tools it uses to raise our mind to the level of mind of the dreamer, of the dream maker. And we have to start with a question. So how can we use analogy to become curious? And why is analogy needed? Because analogy is where we get questions from. Hey, this thing that I'm experiencing in my particulars, my particular experience, like my false beliefs or negative self-talk or my distractions and tangents, particulars, A is to B. How does it relate to meaning or the general or meaning? How does it relate to what's actually meaningful? C is to D. Hey, this stuff about shepherd is to sheep, how does it relate to king is to shepherd, or king is to subjects? That's where we get our puzzles from. What are we missing? Some analogies are obvious, some are puzzling. Hey, I'm playing Resident Evil, I come across this red door. I need a red key. Hang on a second. I've got this. That's A is to B. A is to B. Red door is the red key. Now I've got this blue door. I'm missing the blue key. There's my puzzle. What part of this analogy am I not seeing? Is not obvious to me, is not straightforward. Or maybe I think it's straightforward, but the dream is really leaning into it, which means what I think is the answer might be the problem, might be the puzzle. So we need to look for analogies within the dream to begin with that we can then apply dream analysis to unpack, find the puzzle, find the question, find the answer, and then apply it to benefit. That's participating in our highest art. That's participating in the highest human functioning. That's why we need to find the way in. How do we find our opening question or puzzle or starting order? Using analogy and dialectic, the two activities of the logos or thought or thinking or understanding, to find that opening question, to become curious about the dream, to get that question that we nurture and become pregnant with. That's what we're doing. We'll continue doing that next time. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for the follow. I hope you have found it interesting and puzzling and challenging, but hopefully not too challenging that you'll put off. Hopefully just challenging enough that you become curious and puzzled and you develop courage. Courage, temperance, wisdom, justice, and charm. Develop the virtues along the way. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one. Oh, if you want to donate to the channel, you can buy me a coffee below. There's a link to the text. You can follow on Twitch. You can join the Discord and you get a notification when we go live. And I'll see you in the next one.